A barren wasteland where once there was life, now there is nothing but ashes and dust. Broken scraps of metal, burned out engines, and machines buried in sand tell the story of a world destroyed. But in this silence lies a mystery. An unusual woman lying motionless on the ground. Her skin shimmers unnaturally, not like any human, as if she came from another world. Dressed in white, covered in dust, she lies unconscious, fragile yet strangely powerful. In the distance, two men stand watching her. Their expressions reveal both fear and curiosity. Who is she? An enemy or a sign of hope? In this ruined world where survival is the only law, the sudden appearance of this mysterious woman raises more questions than answers. Could she be from an unknown planet? Does she carry a hidden power strong enough to change the fate of mankind? Or is she simply a messenger of death and destruction? Every gaze turns toward the same question. The first thing that catches the eye in this desolate wasteland is not the broken machines, nor the endless sand, but her, an unusual figure lying still on the ground. At first glance, she looks human, yet something about her presence feels entirely otherworldly. Her skin glimmers faintly under the harsh desert sun, a strange metallic sheen coating her body as if the dust of stars has settled onto her. Covered in sand, her frame appears delicate, but the aura around her suggests something far beyond fragility. Her white clothing contrasts sharply with the golden earth around her, almost glowing against the scorched desert floor. Every detail seems to whisper a story. The strands of her long, pale hair scattered across the sand, the faint lines of exhaustion visible on her face, the way her arms stretches across the ground as though she had been reaching for something, or perhaps someone, before collapsing. There is silence here, an eerie stillness that surrounds her body. Unlike the chaos of the wreckage in the background, her presence feels almost sacred, like an anomaly in the ruins of a broken world. She is out of place, and that strangeness is what makes her the very center of this scene. Questions arise immediately. Who is she? Why does her skin shine like silver dust? Is she human, alien, or something caught in between? The wreckage around suggests war, destruction, and the remnants of a once mighty civilization, yet she lies untouched, unharmed, as though protected by an unseen force. The sand has embraced her form, clinging to her body as if trying to conceal her identity, but at the same time revealing her as the undeniable focal point of this desert graveyard. Her expression carries both pain and serenity. Her closed eyes make her look as if she is merely sleeping, though her lips, slightly parted, suggest the struggle of breath, the faint traces of life that remain within her. There is vulnerability in her posture, her body half turned in the sand, but also an undeniable strength, as though this collapse is only temporary. She is not a victim of this world. She is something more, perhaps a catalyst waiting to awaken. The way the light falls on her body enhances the mystery. The desert sun creates sharp contrasts. Shadows deepen her curves, while the shimmering highlights make her glow against the earth. It is almost as if the world itself is trying to draw attention to her, making sure no eye can escape her presence. Everything else, the wreckage, the survivors in the distance, the desert sky, feels like background noise compared to her. She is the question, the puzzle, the symbol of this scene. Without her, it would simply be another ruined battlefield. With her, it becomes a story. Her placement on the ground is not random. It feels deliberate, cinematic, and poetic. She lies at the heart of destruction, almost like a fallen angel cast down into the ruins of men. The sand clinging to her skin suggests struggle, the collapse of someone who has walked a long, exhausting path. Yet the gleam on her body hints at something divine, as if her fall is not the end, but the beginning of something greater. Viewers cannot help but be drawn closer, compelled to wonder. Is she a survivor from another dimension, a weapon disguised as a woman, or perhaps the last remnant of a civilization long forgotten? Every grain of sand around her seems to guard the answer, every beam of sunlight hinting at secrets hidden beneath her stillness. In the wreckage of machines and the silence of a broken world, she becomes the heartbeat of the story. Her body may rest, but her presence dominates everything. She is not just lying on the sand. She is lying on the threshold of revelation. Beyond the fragile body, in the foreground, lies a wasteland scarred by destruction. The desert stretches endlessly, but its emptiness is broken by the scattered bones of machines, giant carcasses of steel half buried in sand, silent witnesses of a war that has long ended. Rusted panels glint faintly under the harsh sunlight, while twisted metal arms reach upward like skeletons frozen in agony. These machines were once powerful, roaring engines of dominance, but now they are nothing more than relics dissolving into the earth. The silence is overwhelming. No birds circle the skies. No insects crawl across the dunes. Only the hollow whispers of wind passing through broken vents and shattered frames. Each gust of air stirs clouds of dust that dance briefly before settling back onto the corpses of these machines, as if the desert itself is reclaiming what mankind left behind. The smell of rust, smoke, and scorched earth lingers faintly, though the fires that once raged here have long burned out. One vehicle stands out among the wreckage, its massive tires half sunken into the sand. Once it must have been a war machine, thick armored plates, mounted weapons, and a command tower rising above it. But now it lies broken, its body cracked open like a ribcage. Its shadow stretches across the ground, pointing toward the silver-skinned woman in the foreground, as if the ruins themselves are tied to her existence. Perhaps she was there when the destruction came, or perhaps she is the reason it happened. Around this vehicle, smaller wrecks scatter the ground. Motorbikes missing wheels, helmets shattered in the dust, and pieces of weapons buried halfway in the earth. The desert does not distinguish between man and machine. It swallows both equally. Only fragments remain, hints of battles fought and lives lost. The sand is not clean here. It is stained darker in places, where oil and perhaps blood once soaked the ground. The environment tells its own story. These ruins are not ancient. They are fresh enough to still bear the marks of heat and impact. Cracks in the earth suggest explosions that shook the ground, while sharp metallic fragments gleam as if newly broken. Yet no bodies remain. Either they were carried away by survivors, or time and the desert consumed them. The silence is heavy not just with absence, but with the weight of unanswered questions. As the eye travels further into the mid-ground, the dunes rise and fall gently, forming natural barriers that conceal parts of the wreckage. Every curve of the desert holds the possibility of something hidden, a weapon, a corpse, or another secret buried under years of dust. The way the sand covers these machines is almost intentional, like a slow burial by nature, erasing the memory of a war humanity might prefer to forget. But the stillness is deceptive. Despite its silence, the mid-ground holds tension. The twisted silhouettes of metal appear like watchful guardians, looming over the fallen figure in the foreground. The sun, merciless and unrelenting, beats down on every surface, intensifying the feeling of exposure. Nothing can survive long here without protection, and yet she lies unshielded, untouched. The wreckage that surrounds her feels almost like an arena, framing her collapse as though she is the centerpiece of this forgotten stage. The desert itself is part of the wreckage. Its shifting sands act as both destroyer and preserver, erasing tracks while simultaneously entombing secrets. Every step into this terrain is uncertain, every dune capable of swallowing evidence of what came before. The survivors in the distance, to be explored in the next section, stand on this same fragile ground, their boots pressing into soil that remembers war but refuses to reveal it easily. The mid-ground, then, is not just a backdrop. It is the battlefield's silent voice, telling stories through rusted husks and broken wheels. It represents mankind's ambition turned to ruin, power reduced to silence. The woman in the foreground may be the key, but the wreckage surrounding her is the context, the scars of a struggle that shaped this world. Without it, her fall would be meaningless. With it, she becomes part of a larger tale, one where destruction whispers of both tragedy and rebirth. Farther beyond the mid-ground wreckage, the landscape unfolds into an even larger story. The background is where the world truly breathes, or rather, where it struggles to breathe. It is here, at the edge of vision, that the vastness of the desert reveals its merciless truth. Endless dunes roll into one another like waves frozen in time, their peaks sharp against the burning sky. The air is hazy, trembling under the weight of heat, making the horizon shimmer like a mirage. Yet no promise of water lies there, only more emptiness. Against this barren backdrop stand the skeletal remains of machines once designed to dominate such terrain. Massive trucks, stripped of their armor, slump half-buried in sand as though dragged down by invisible hands. Their frames are blackened, scorched by fire, their wheels twisted and torn. Some vehicles rest on their sides, others stand upright but hollowed, their inner workings exposed like organs left to rot. They resemble tombstones more than machines, marking the graves of battles that swallowed both man and metal alike. The sky above deepens the drama. The sun, harsh and merciless, sits high, but around its blazing crown hang streaks of smoke and dust that dull the brightness. What should be a clear desert sky instead appears bruised, painted in tones of yellow, orange, and gray. Wisps of smoke spiral upward from wrecks still smoldering faintly, their thin trails blending into the haze. The air itself feels thick, as though carrying the memory of fire and bloodshed. Every breath in this background seems heavy, poisoned by what came before. Shadows stretch long across the sand, cast not only by dunes and machines, but also by fragments of towers and scaffolding, the remains of some larger structure that once rose proudly above this wasteland. Perhaps it was a base, a fortress, or a refinery. Whatever it was, it has been shattered, reduced to jagged silhouettes that claw upward as if begging the heavens for mercy. These structures frame the background like the ruins of an ancient cathedral, their presence monumental yet broken. Movement is scarce, but not entirely absent. Vultures circle far in the distance, black dots against the glowing horizon, their wings cutting slow, patient arcs in the heated air. Their presence confirms what the silence already implies. Death once lingered here in abundance. Every ruined vehicle, every broken wall, and every collapsed tower carries a story of violence and defeat. The vultures do not circle for nothing. They wait, watching for what still breathes. The wind plays its own role in shaping the background. It moves ceaselessly, carving patterns into the dunes, erasing tracks, shifting the sand so subtly that the land never looks the same twice. With every gust, fragments of metal clink faintly, like hollow bells, creating a haunting music that echoes against the emptiness. Dust clouds rise briefly and then vanish, carried toward the horizon where they disappear into the blur. Despite all this ruin, there is a strange beauty here. The contrast between destruction and nature's persistence creates an almost surreal scene. The wreckage may be jagged and violent, but the curves of the dunes are soft, graceful, flowing like the strokes of a painter's brush. The light, though harsh, gives everything a golden glow, turning even rust and ash into art. It is a cruel beauty, one that does not comfort, but instead magnifies the loneliness of this place. And yet, the background is not just emptiness, it is a stage waiting for movement. The survivors who watch the fallen woman in the foreground are dwarfed by this vastness, their figures almost insignificant against the desert's endless horizon. The world behind them does not care for their struggle. It continues in silence, indifferent to whether they live or die. But this indifference also raises the stakes. In such an unforgiving landscape, every choice matters, every action echoes. The background, then, serves not only as scenery but as a reminder. It reminds us that this is not merely a local skirmish or a personal tragedy. It is part of a larger collapse, a world broken beyond repair. The fallen machines, the wounded sky, and the unending desert together create an atmosphere of finality, as though humanity has reached its endgame. And yet, within this desolation, a faint possibility stirs. Perhaps the woman in the foreground, fragile yet strange, is the one anomaly strong enough to disturb the silence of this background. While the fallen woman in the foreground commands the eye, and the ruins behind her speak of devastation, there is another layer to this story. Two figures who stand a short distance away, caught between curiosity and fear. They are survivors, etched in the language of scars and grit, their presence adding tension to an already charged scene. They do not dominate the frame like the machines or the desert, but their very posture speaks volumes. They are witnesses, and perhaps unwilling participants in whatever fate this woman represents. The first man is tall and broad, his muscles hardened by years of labor and combat. His skin is weathered, sunburnt from endless days beneath a merciless sky. He wears fragments of armor pieced together from scavenged steel, a patchwork of protection that looks crude yet practical. Across his back hangs a makeshift weapon, a jagged blade welded from machine parts, its edges dulled by sand, but still capable of tearing through flesh or metal. His stance is cautious, weight balanced on both feet, one hand hovering near his weapon. His eyes, shadowed by a cracked visor, narrow with suspicion. He looks at the fallen woman not with pity, but with calculation. To him, she could be danger incarnate. Beside him stands the second figure, younger, leaner, perhaps less hardened by time. His clothes are lighter, stitched from scraps of fabric, but his movements are quicker, more restless. He fidgets, shifting his weight from one leg to the other, his gaze darting between the woman and the horizon. Unlike his companion, fear dominates his features. The younger man's hands tremble slightly, gripping the strap of a worn satchel slung across his chest. Whatever tools or supplies it contains, they are meager, unfit to change the course of anything. His fear is raw, almost childlike, but it does not drive him away. It roots him in place, as though he cannot look away from the enigma before him. Together, the two men embody contrast, strength and uncertainty, suspicion and awe. Yet despite their differences, both are bound by the same question. Who is she? Their presence is what transforms this scene from silent aftermath into living tension. They represent the voice of humanity, standing small against forces they cannot comprehend. Their positioning is deliberate. They do not approach her. They keep their distance. The sand between them and the fallen figure is more than physical. It is symbolic. That distance represents fear, reverence, and the weight of the unknown. To step closer would mean to choose a side, to see her as savior or threat. For now, they linger in indecision, and that hesitation speaks louder than action. The taller man studies her with the eyes of a soldier. He notices her skin's metallic glow, the unnatural shimmer that sets her apart from anything human. He notices how she lies untouched by the chaos around her, as though the world has bent its violence around her form. He sees danger in her stillness, potential catastrophe in her awakening. His body language reads like a silent verdict. If she moves, if she proves hostile, he will strike without hesitation. The younger man, however, sees something else. For him, her fragility overshadows her strangeness. He notices the way her hair spreads across the sand like threads of light, the way her hand stretches outward, almost pleading. He sees not a weapon, but a lost soul, someone in need of help. His fear is not just of her, but of what rejecting her might mean. Perhaps she is the last chance for something greater than survival, something closer to redemption. Together, these two observers provide more than background. They create conflict. Their silent debate unfolds without words. Suspicion versus compassion, survival versus hope. They are every viewer's divided conscience, pulled between fear of the unknown and the irresistible draw of mystery. The desert around them offers no guidance. The wreckage does not answer their doubts. The sky does not reveal her origins, and the silence holds no wisdom. All they have is choice, and choice in this world has always been brutal. The taller man's grip tightens on his weapon. The younger man takes a hesitant step forward. Their decision is not yet made, but it is coming, inevitable as the sun's descent. They stand there, frozen in dust and indecision, their shadows stretching long across the sand. The woman lies still, but her presence commands them like gravity, pulling them into a story far larger than either understands. For now, they are watchers, but soon they must act. The scene, though constructed of individual details, the fallen woman, the wreckage, the survivors, comes alive only when tied together by its atmosphere. It is this atmosphere, heavy and unrelenting, that shapes the entire story. Every sound, every shadow, and every grain of sand carries meaning here, blending into a tone that is equal parts mystery and danger. The first thing one feels is the silence. Not the silence of peace, but the silence after violence. A stillness so sharp it hums in the ears. It is the kind of quiet that amplifies small noises. The crunch of sand beneath a boot, the whisper of wind slipping through broken vents, the metallic groan of wreckage shifting under the heat. Each sound is magnified, filling the emptiness like echoes in a cathedral of ruin. This silence is oppressive, a constant reminder that the world has ended, and yet something remains unfinished. Light plays an equally crucial role. The desert sun is brutal, beating down mercilessly on metal and flesh alike. It bleaches the world in harsh gold and white, casting long black shadows that seem almost alive. But within this unforgiving light, the mysterious woman glows differently, her skin reflecting an otherworldly shimmer. She does not just exist within the atmosphere. She warps it, where everything else looks corroded and broken. She radiates a strange purity, making her both beacon and enigma. This contrast defines the mood, hope and doom intertwined. The air itself feels thick, weighted with dust and smoke that never truly clears. A faint haze drifts across the horizon, painting the sky with bruised colors, orange, yellow, and ashy gray. These colors are not beautiful. They are unsettling, a visual reminder of firestorms and explosions long past. The atmosphere does not allow the mind to rest. It constantly whispers of what happened and warns of what could still come. Danger lives in this mood, though not always visible. The ruins suggest ambush. The silence suggests predators waiting in patience, and the vast desert suggests death through exposure. Even without an enemy in sight, the viewer senses threat. It is not a matter of if something will happen, but when. Every flicker of shadow, every shifting dune, could conceal a new danger. The atmosphere thrives on tension, feeding the imagination with possibilities darker than what the eye can see. At the same time, there is mystery. The woman at the center is the greatest question mark, but even the desert itself carries secrets. What destroyed the machines? Why do the survivors remain? Why does she lie untouched amid devastation? The air feels charged with unanswered riddles, as though the land itself is holding its breath, waiting for revelation. This sense of anticipation blends with the fear, creating an atmosphere that refuses to be neutral. It demands attention, pulling viewers deeper. The tone is cinematic, shaped not by what is shown, but by what is suggested. The scene feels like a frame captured from a larger story, a moment suspended just before the plot unfolds. The lighting, the silence, the placement of characters, everything is orchestrated for maximum tension. It does not comfort the eye, it unsettles it, making the viewer aware that something extraordinary is about to occur. And yet, despite the heaviness, the atmosphere carries beauty. The contrast of light and shadow, the surreal shimmer of the woman's skin, the vast expanse of desert against broken steel, all combine into a haunting visual poetry. It is beauty born from destruction, a reminder that even in endings, something striking can emerge. Ultimately, the atmosphere and tone elevate the scene from simple survival to myth. It is not just a wasteland, it is a stage, not just a fallen woman, but a symbol, not just two men watching, but humanity standing at the edge of destiny. The mystery and danger saturating the air do not just surround the story. They are the story, the invisible threads pulling every element together. The desert may be silent, but the atmosphere speaks endlessly. It tells us that this is not merely the aftermath of a battle. It is the beginning of something far greater, a shift in the balance of worlds. In its silence, in its danger, and in its mystery, the